In this paragraph in the chapter about India, we're going to look at the way the economy developed itself and if India is a winner or a loser in the world economy. First of all, we would like to show you what the BRICS countries are. So why is India a part of these? What is prosperity and how did the prosperity grow in India? What is the poverty line? What are special economic zones or economic production zones? And what is reverse globalization? All these kind of things are important for India, and that's the reason why we are going to look at these. First of all, the BRICS countries. The BRICS countries are 5 countries which are important, which had a big economic growth after 1990, and of course, with that in mind, the GDP did rise. It came from $200 per capita per year to $5,500 per capita per year. So that is a big growth. And what countries do belong to the BRICS countries? Well, it is, of course, Brazil, it is Russia, it is India, it is China and South Africa. And of course, all these countries have a different style of development, but they did grow from 1990 on pretty fast. So that's the reason why we call them the BRICS countries. But how did India become a BRICS country? Well, before 1990, that's a typo, India had a closed economy. So that means that it was not open to foreign markets. After 1991, politics changed and it was decided that they wanted to open their market because they thought, well, we can gain economic growth when it was opened to foreign investments. So that is what happened. The country opened its borders for foreign investments, and with that, India got funds from the World Bank so it could grow. It opened its borders to foreign direct investment. That means that there are companies and governments allowed to invest in the country, and India created these special economic zones for foreign markets. And I will tell you what that is later. With that in mind, the economic growth was enormous. So prosperity grew. And what is prosperity? It means money. How much money do we have, or does a country have? How rich are the inhabitants of the country? What can they spend? How are prices arranged? Are things expensive or not? That kind of things. But how do we measure this? Well, first of all, we have to look at the composition of the labor force, which is, of course, the amount of people that are working in a certain sector, in agriculture, in services, in industry. And the rule is the higher the amount of people working in the tertiary sector, that's services, the more developed the country is and the richer the country is, so the higher the prosperity. And when you look at this graph, what do you see? Well, you might think that the 57% part on the left shows the amount of people that are working in services, but that's not true. In India, the biggest part of the population is still working in agriculture, so in the primary sector. 26% is working in services, so services is bigger than industry. And that's strange, and there's a reason for that. Of course, India is a country, an English-speaking country, and it's very interesting for foreign companies to open their service centers in India because of the fact that the people are speaking English. Industry is not that important. You might know that China is one of the most active producing countries in the world. You may say that India is the office of the world. So many companies do have facilities over there to help people, like a call center, because of the fact that Indians speak English pretty well. When we look further on prosperity, you can make a measurement through the GDP per capita. But what is that? Well, you have to look at the worth of the products and the services produced in 1 year. So how much money did the country make in 1 year? And if you know that, you can divide this by the number of inhabitants within the country and this shows you the amount of money that the country made per capita. Of course, this is the whole country. And for India, it's very important that you look at different regions, because there is a big difference between regions in India. There are parts which are poor and parts which are rich. And in that case, you don't want to use the gross domestic product per capita, but the regional domestic product per capita. And what does that look like? Well, something like this. This map shows you the differences in India. When you're talking about GDP, it will look almost the same, and you can see that there are regions which are poorer than other ones. And in this case, it's all about the poverty line. When you have to live from $1.25 a day or less, that means that you're below the world poverty line. And you can see that there are certain areas in India which are poor. India opened zones which are created specifically for foreign markets, and these are called the EPZs or SEZs. So they are called Special Economic Zones or Economic Production Zones. And these are industrial areas where foreign Western companies reside. But why specifically there? Well, the rules are different from other locations in India. There are less environmental rules. There is less tax. And of course, India makes a lot of profit through these zones. So they are very important for the economy of India. And India makes a lot of money through these areas because of the fact that there's a lot of employment and these people are paying tax, of course. So that works. There are other things happening in India which is, well, interesting. And that is called globalization, but the other way around. In this case, we have to look back. What was globalization? Well, globalization is the process of international exchange of people, products, money and information, like knowledge and culture, from the centrum countries to countries in the semi-periphery. So that means from the richer to the poorer countries. But in India, some of the big companies like Tata bought industrial estates across Europe, like Tata Steel in IJmuiden in the Netherlands, to produce their products like steel. Recently, they've opened a transshipment business in the port of Rotterdam, and what's that? That's what's called overslag, when you are actually transporting something on a ship to a port and it's been transshipped to another vehicle like a truck or something like that, and then being transported across a continent, in this case Europe. And why is this interesting? Well, normally globalization works from centrum countries to the poorer ones, but in this case India, which does have, when you remember, a big part of employment in agriculture, has created factories or other, well, important money makers in a centrum country. So that works the other way around. And there are not many countries who do this, because you might know that China is working in Europe as well, like AliExpress, but AliExpress does not have a factory in the Netherlands. So that means it's only the transport of products. And in this case, the production itself is not in the low wages countries, in the lage lonenlanden, but it is in a very, very expensive country. They should have a reason for that. And that's of course that if you do have a production facility in Europe, you can transport your products easily through the ports to America or to Africa. So this is an idea which is very important for the economic growth of the country. And that is the reason why Tata Steel and Tata as a global company decided that. Okay, I hope that you got an idea of how India works. And it's an interesting country because there are things happening, well, which we don't know in our country because it's such a different country. And of course, there are 1.4 billion people around there. That's an enormous amount of people in a very big country. So you might understand that this country could become more important in the world economy. But not everywhere. There are still parts of India which are poor, and on the other hand, there are the richer areas.